been given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act pursuant to Public Laws 1975, Chapter 231. This agenda is complete to the extent known and was sent to the Trenton Times, posted on the first floor bulletin board in City Hall, and filed in the city clerk's office. Formal action will be taken. Mr. Garcia, if you will call the roll.
Certainly. Councilwoman Edwards.
Present.
Vice President Figueroa Kettenberg. Present. For the record, Vice President Figueroa Kettenberg is present telephonically for this meeting. Thank you. Councilwoman Frisbee. Present. Thank you. Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Presente.
Gracias. Councilman Harrison.
Present.
Councilwoman Williams.
Present.
And Council President Feliciano.
Present.
Myself, Brandon Garcia, Municipal Clerk, present. Legislative Counsel, Mr. Ed Kaloji.
Present.
Thank you. And en route, I imagine, will be Mr. Micchio, I believe. Thank you. On your call, Madam President.
May I continue with the invocation, please?
Certainly. Almighty God, who holds the fate of man and nation, we most humbly beseech thee to bless this, our city, these deliberations, and these thy servants, that they may act with wisdom and understanding for the good of our community and thy greater glory. Amen.
Amen.
And Madam President, we have no presentations this evening, so the agenda brings us to public comment. And if it's your wish, we can move forward with public comment.
Yes, before we begin though, just want to let everyone know a slight variation with the agenda where we move civic comment up below public comment, and that's to give you all the opportunity to hear any council person's response to what it is that you would say during public comment, because oftentimes we listen, we don't talk back and forth. That is your time to give your statements about what it is that you want us to know. Typically, by the time we would get to civic comment, because it's at the end, many people would already have gone. And so you don't get to hear what it is that someone may want to have said to you. And so that's why we made the adjustment. So on tonight, you may hear some responses to your public comment. Thank you. You may continue, Mr. Garcia.
Certainly, thank you. If someone could please hand me the clipboard for public comment, if at all possible. Do we have a security guard? We have Mr. Beach, and that's even better. Right? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you. And Madam President, we have 4 individuals here for public comment this evening. To the public comment is limited to 5 minutes per individual. You may address any matter that you wish. Please do understand that the council is not obligated to respond. Please state your name and address for the record when you do come up. First person for public comment is Chris Bukowski. Did I say that correctly? Thank you.
Members of council, I'm here tonight to register my strong opposition to the proposed ordinance 24015 and how it restricts the keeping of wildlife and other animals in the city of Trenton. I just wanted to call your attention that first off, the keeping of animals in the city of Trenton is already addressed in chapter 21, article 3 of the Trenton city ordinances. For regular animals, the keeping of wildlife in New Jersey is extensively regulated by the state, not only by ordinance, but by regulation of the Fish and Wildlife. In particular, what I want to talk about is the keeping of small poultry in Trenton. And I wanted to address it on 3 grounds: cultural, educational, and economic. First, cultural. For many of our neighbors, the keeping of a small flock of chickens or ducks or geese is a cultural touchstone for them. They remember it from homes, from their own childhood. I know that my mother speaks at quite length of her pet chicken that she had as a child. I would like you to keep that in mind when you consider this ordinance, that there are cultural issues. I'd also like to address educational issues. Many of our residents might not know where their food comes from. Certainly children have a vested interest in knowing how food comes from the ground and how things such as eggs comes from a chicken. These are important things that our children should know. And the last one I would like to address is economic. Many of our neighbors depend on our yearly garden to supplement their food security. This is an issue not only here in Trenton, but across our country. And we have a chance to address it in a positive light. I don't want to dismiss that there are possibly irresponsible pet owners. That is certainly the case, not only for any of the animals that might be listed by ordinance, but by simple cat and dog owners as well. I think we can all recognize that. The solution there isn't to ban the ownership of cats and dogs, but education. I think that I would urge the city to reach out to our neighbors across the city to instruct them not only in the existing ordinance, which is already covered, as I stated previously, but to how they can be better neighbors and better pet owners in general. I think that there is a role here for us to be inclusive of our neighbors in a more appropriate ordinance, if this is an issue. I just want to conclude by saying that the ordinance that I read here in front of me today, I think would impoverish our city culturally and communally. In this time where really we're driven apart in so many ways, I think that we can come up with an idea that will and craft an ordinance that will allow people to come together and not be excluded. Thank you.
Jessica Alpert.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Jessica Alpert. I actually live in Ocean County, so I wasn't sure if I should give my work address, which is here in Trenton, or my Ocean County address. So let me know if you need me to change that. I put my work address on there. Okay. So I work for Catholic Charities Diocese of Trenton. I'm the Community Outreach Associate. I met Councilwoman Williams at a recent resource event at East, put on by Princeton Justice Initiative at East Trenton Collaborative, which was a really great event. And Councilwoman Williams invited some of the resources there to come and speak to the public and to all of you, which was so nice. So thank you for that. I just wanted to highlight some of the programs that we have throughout Mercer County. We have a lot of different programs. So if it pleases the council, I did bring copies for everybody as well as the public. I have our full extensive Mercer County fact sheet, but in the interest of time, I think I would highlight some of the programs that I think that would be most beneficial to speak about here. The first of which is a new youth gun violence intervention program. It's for youth ages 13 to 17, whether they were directly impacted or witness to it, or they could know somebody that was impacted by violence. It's a free service done by our clinicians. It is in Hamilton, but our clinicians can also go mobile to meet the need if transportation is a barrier. So I have flyers for that as well that I can also offer. In addition to that, while we're speaking about youth, we also have it's a really great program for youth, adolescents and young adults. It's called New Choices, and it's right here in Trenton on North Clinton. It's a substance use program. So it's both an intensive outpatient or a traditional outpatient. The difference between the two is how many days the youth would attend program. So with that being said, they get the therapy, group, individual. They can get picked up right from school or anywhere in Mercer County. We provide them with dinner. And speaking with the Trenton Police Department, it seems that there's a very big uptick in marijuana use, and the children that are using it are getting younger and younger. I also met with the medical director that's doing the testing the drug tests of the youth that test positive in Trenton school system. And he said the very same thing. So I just encourage everybody to, utilize these resources. If you know anybody to talk about these resources, just as the program name states, New Choices, that's exactly what it's, meant to do. They go on fun outings as well. There's a game room. So that one's called New Choices, and it's listed on our program sheet. On the topic of substance use, we also have an adult substance use program. Same thing, we do offer transportation for that, and it's located on North Clinton as well. The last piece I wanted to mention is our walk-in mental health urgent care. So everybody has heard the term stigma and how it relates to things and mental health in particular. So I definitely implore you, it might not affect you right now or maybe someone but there can be situational depression, anxiety, things that happen. So we never know what the next day is going to bring. If we lose a loved one, if we, lose our job, like these are all things that can affect our mental health. So I think being armed with resources that are in the community, even if you don't feel like it can, necessarily impact you, it's definitely great, because if you have the resources and you're talking to a coworker and they're going through something, you can say, hey, there's a mental health urgent care. You can just walk in. You don't even need insurance. We take Medicaid. So that's also in Hamilton. But in order to, we always take it a step further by looking at barriers. So we do have transportation available for that as well. What those services can offer, what that could look like is just what I said. Maybe you haven't been feeling well, and you're calling out of work, you're not being there for your kids like you want to be, something's off. It would be a really great thing to be able to just walk in and get an assessment done. And what that also looks like, if you want to do that program, is it's 30 days of therapy. And what that looks like, because when I say program, I think people think like, oh, how much time is this going to take for me? It's once a week you get therapy. And being that it's a 30-day program, it's really just to prevent any situation from escalating, any mental health situation. So in the event after the 30 days, maybe you need further treatment, we can refer you out as well. I know my time is up. We have these little wallet cards that are directly related to that mental health urgent care. And you can always call the number. You can make an appointment, but as I said, you can also just walk in as well. So I just want to thank you all for letting me speak. And I'll leave my business cards too if anybody wants to connect as well. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Eve Phillips.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eve Phillips, and I was selected to be in I'm an official state finalist in the Miss New Jersey USA, and thank you. And I'm just coming here basically because they are asking for all the contestants for a sponsorship, and this is in order to complete the sponsorship. It will allow me to participate in the Miss New Jersey and plus the Miss USA. So I would just come in here to ask if you guys were able to help me financially to complete inside the Miss New Jersey USA. So basically, this will also help me with, my stay within it will help me financially, what is it? More, please. With the equipment, excuse me, with my road trip, my airfare, wardrobe, and my expenses as a winner for the Miss New Jersey, and also training and walking and all this type of things. My eye open is to be an advocate for the youth. And I would believe that this will also help me to, be the light of the youth and help people that's in need. So I would very much appreciate you guys to help me with this. And I have some papers also to hand out to you guys. So yes, thank you for listening to me.
Dan, is that Fatton? Fatton? Did I get that correct? Thank you.
Good evening, Council. It's nice to see you all. I'm Dan Fatton, 120 Jackson Street. And I think this is the first time I've actually testified to this new council. I just want to thank you. It's been very refreshing to have competent leadership again in the city and not to have to worry about what's going to happen every Tuesday, Thursday. I do read every agenda and I'm watching what's happening as a city resident. And I just want to say kudos for the good work so far. I'm here to testify about Ordinance 24015, the ordinance regulating keeping of certain animals and wildlife within the city of Trenton. And I want to encourage you to vote against this or to amend it. So, as I think many of you know, I was a member of the Green Team for more than a decade, and I think this is wholly against our goals in terms of sustainability and local food production. I think the keeping of egg-laying hens in backyards where there's space is actually a very positive thing that we should be encouraging and is much more in line with all of the attributes and values that Mr. Bukowski talked about in the beginning. For me, I'm personally affected. I have neighbors who have chickens and they do not bother me. I don't hear them. Once in a while, I even get a free egg, but that's not why I'm here. I think there's a pretty simple solution in terms of amending the language. And I understand that you're trying to address multiple issues here. It's not just about chickens, but I think striking the word chickens has you covered. Roosters are delineated in the language. That is the actual problem. The roosters are the ones that make the noise. That's what we're trying to avoid. They're not, chickens are not harbingers of disease. These are totally acceptable in an urban community. And so I would just really encourage you to think about either amending the language or revisiting this issue altogether, because I think if you strike chickens, your ordinance is probably fine. If you want to address the idea of having chickens in your backyard with or without this ordinance, I think we could probably all work together to come up with a permit process or some other logical way to deal with having backyard chickens. But I don't think this is the right approach. And so I just wanted to thank you again for being good leaders, but just encourage you to think a little deeper about this particular issue. Thank you.
Kathleen Deal.
Good evening, Council. So nice to see everybody. My name is Kathleen Deal. I live at 19 Greenwood Avenue. I'm here wearing two hats today. My first hat is as president of Trenton Cycling Revolution. We have our open house on March 23rd at Artworks. We invite all council members and members of the public to join us and to see what some of the opportunities that Trenton Cycling Revolution has for community. We give away hundreds of bicycles per year. We have a bike shop behind East Trenton Collaborative, where every week we have programming where young people throughout the city can come and learn to maintain and fix their bicycles. And we also encourage uses of the trails. And on the aspect of using the trails, one of the things that we've taken some of the youth from the East Trenton neighborhood over the last year was over to Capital City Farm. So some of the people and children specifically throughout the city have never seen wildlife. And one of our initiatives as advocates for our community is to make sure that the young people in our city have equitable access to nature and the environment. And the ordinance regarding livestock is something that I think should be amended or banned. So just on this, keeping hens, female chickens, provides numerous benefits to families and communities, and they should not be banned in Trenton. The primary reason for chickens is as a loved and cared for pet with endearing personalities and amusing antics that can brighten one's day and significantly reduce stress. In addition to that, they provide many other benefits, including their eggs are a fantastic source of fresh, nutritious food rich in protein, vitamins, and minerals. They help reduce waste by consuming food scraps and other kitchen waste. Their manure is one of the best fertilizers available for gardens. Chickens also consume weeds, vast quantities of ticks, and mosquitoes, and keep other garden pests like grubs. Keeping chickens also helps to continue our connection to our cultural and historical heritage of farming. They promote food security and independence and are a way to supplement household groceries and protect against price gouging. Chickens are a low maintenance, inexpensive, and adapted to various climates. They promote locally grown, sustainable food and allow people to know that the food they are eating is responsibly and humanely raised. When well-maintained, small flocks of hens, female chickens, not roosters, result in no odor, no pests, very little noise, and are not a nuisance to neighbors and communities. In fact, keeping chickens can help to build community and connect with neighbors. Children can learn valuable lessons about nature, responsibility, and the food cycle through caring for chickens. Overall, having a small backyard flock is an enjoyable, eco-friendly, and rewarding endeavor for households of any size. Many towns around New Jersey and around the country have addressed the regulation of chickens through separate, well-researched ordinances with specific requirements, which can include registration fees, coop and yard inspections, coop and run limitations, density restrictions, and more. This can help to ensure that chickens are kept in a healthy, safe, and humane environment, and that they are not a nuisance for neighbors. Hens, female chickens, egg-laying chickens should be exempted from the ordinance. Thank you for your time. I hope to see you all at our open house at Artworks on the 23rd.
Madam President, those are all the individuals that have signed for public comment at this time. So if it's your wish, you may start with civic comment and whomever you would like.
Okay, thank you. So we'll start with Councilwoman Williams.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Mhm.
Just have a couple announcements. Coming up this Saturday night over at Morrisville Lanes is a fundraiser for Children's Futures. It's to raise money to support maternal and infant mortality awareness programs through NFP and doula programs. Tickets are $25 for children 5 to 10. They are $10. If you have any questions, information, and to get tickets, please dial 609-695-1977. And the session will start from 8:30 p.m. Until I believe 11 p.m. Also, later this month, 2 Wednesdays from now, we will be having the Northward CPAC meeting, which will be coming up. It's at Galilee Baptist Church, 440 MLK Boulevard. Meeting starts at 5:30, ends at 7 o'clock, and that's going to be on March 20th. If you can, please attend. It's a good mix of folks from different neighborhoods. We also interface with the police department to get issues out first person that are going on. And we have seen some issues being solved within weeks of meetings of the CPAC. So please try to join us. There are CPACs in each of the wards, and I know they're very effective. So please come out and join us. Just want to talk on a couple issues. The first being the issues with the chickens. I really appreciate everybody coming out and expressing their opinions. A lot of people did reach out to us via email regarding this issue, and know we'll be having a pretty robust discussion about it. But please also know, I know there are a lot of very responsible chicken owners, particularly hen owners for eggs, and they share them amongst their community, which is outstanding because we are a food desert city. We are a place where many people, because of environmental allergies, have to worry about hormones, have to worry about antibiotics in their eggs. So this is a real important discussion, and it is appreciated that folks from the community have spoken out to bring that to the fore. But I know Mr. Harrison, my colleague, Councilman Harrison, has worked very hard on this over actually a number of months. So this issue is not taken lightly. We have had a lot of, as you might have seen online, issues happen, particularly with an emu in the city, also with waste being from animals being hosed into the street. So these are a lot of different health issues that we are looking at, but please know that we are taking all this seriously, including the important things that having hens in a city does do. Because I'll frankly say I grew up as a city kid. I never probably saw a hen until I moved to Louisiana for graduate school. And that's something to Ms. Deal's point about children in the city having a chance to actually meet wildlife and interact with wildlife. It does change your perspective about your environment, about your world. So we're going to do our best, and just please trust in us that we are going to have, like I said, a robust discussion about this. Finally, and if I only have a little bit of time left, but just want to speak to the issue of abandoned properties in our city. And we've had, unfortunately, since the first of the year, a number of properties actually, fortunately, no one was hurt, but they did collapse or partially collapse because of different things, abandonment, falling apart over the years from neglect. In one case recently, a corner property was hit by a vehicle, which accelerated its deterioration. We are, as a city, trying to take down as many properties as we can, as fast as we can, but there are governmental hurdles that we have to get across, including legally being able to use funding for these properties. And there is a long list. I can assure you every council member wants to have this get taken care of as soon as we can, particularly in some of our worst properties where, unfortunately, because we have a homeless situation, that people go in to live inside during tough weather months. And sometimes there are fires. And unfortunately, people have lost their homes next to those properties. And we are trying to do everything we can to make all our neighborhoods safe, and to also make sure with the limited resources we have that we're able to try to get the worst properties taken care of first. And as our city tries to get more money, whether it's through state transitional aid or our own ways through grants, it's going to happen. Just please be patient with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Harrison.
Good evening, everyone. I know everyone here is to talk about the 24-015. I would like to give some information that I found out today during lunchtime. Regarding Hamilton Township, you're only allowed chickens in rural resource areas, which is behind the Hamilton Marketplace on the way to the Monmouth County line. The chicken coop must be 200 feet from your property. It has to be 200 feet from the property. No chickens are allowed in Ewing Township. Residents who live in Lawrenceville, you're allowed to have 2 chickens, but you have to have 5,000 square feet. 5,000 square feet to have chickens. Average row home in the city of Trenton is between 10 by 15, which is around 150 square feet. Compare that to Lawrence. Lawrence is 5,000. Ours is 150. Additionally, like I said, only place in Hamilton Township where you're allowed to have the farm area, which is behind those locations. Let's see what else. The avian influenza can be spread by wild birds to chickens. It's highly contagious and deadly to chickens. We just got through the COVID pandemic. So people in the Trenton, do we really need a bird flu pandemic? Just like, so people who can have eggs, I understand what people are about eggs, but the regulations in other locations, like I said, Ewing has none. You're not allowed to have chickens. Hamilton has to be 200 feet from the top of your property, and Lawrenceville has to be 5,000 square feet. Each property in the city of Trenton is an average of 150 square feet. For that, I think that's the reason why I'm against this. We've had last year, we had issues where people were washing their chicken stuff out into the street. And it became a problem because the heat hit it and the neighbors were complaining about it in the South Ward, about the smell of it. So hopefully my colleagues will see that my understanding about this is it's about the size. We don't, other locations, you have to have it either 200 feet from the back of your house, or in Lawrenceville, 5,000 square feet. The city of Trenton is too small. We do not have that. Not only that, we have issues right now, but we're trying to deal with the regarding the cats and dogs in the city. Now we're going to be taking on chickens. I think we need, as a city, we need to regulate and say, hey, look, we don't need chickens, we don't need roosters, emus, alligators, any of these, because we've had people who had deer in their backyard. We don't need that either. So we need to continually move the city forward. And as like I said, it's all about the size of the property. We don't have properties that are going to be the size that could be able to incorporate the requirements from other places like Hamilton or even Lawrence. Thank you for your time and have a great evening.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being present. Just want to say a couple of things. Thank you to all who've expressed your concerns about the ordinance 24-015 and for bringing, your concerns to us tonight. Congratulations to the young lady, Ms. Phillips. We just want to say congratulations and good luck on that endeavor. And also, just on a side note, parking, I wanted just to address the issues that we're having with the parking tickets. It seems like it's excessive, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't be enforcing our parking signs and our parking regulations. However, I just don't know if the residents are aware that certain restrictions are being enforced now, and I know that they haven't in the past, and we're doing better at doing that, at enforcing it now. But we also need to inform our residents that these things are occurring. There's people that are getting 10 tickets within 2 days, and some of them have corrected the violations, but yet they're still being targeted. So it seems, I just really want to know if these parking attendants are being trained properly, or what is the process for that? Because I've seen pictures of a vehicle that's received a ticket that is farther away from the corner that another car was parked at. So it's just a lot of things going on. So I just wanted to actually have some conversation about that, and just make sure that our residents know what's being enforced and some proper notification. Just a couple of announcements. I just want to say congratulations to those who put on the celebrity basketball game, to our colleagues who participated in it. It was a very good event for our city. I was not in town to attend that. Thank you to everyone who came out yesterday and supported Jair Tate Brown, with us presenting him the keys to the city. The city did a phenomenal job at putting that together. So thank you to everyone who showed up for that. And just a quick announcement, we have a cafe conversation that will begin on March 16th, and that is being hosted by the Department of Community Affairs from the Trenton Police Department. And I believe they have the president of Mercer County College will be a guest speaker that day, and that's from 11 to 1, and that will be hosted at the Orchid House. So if anyone is able to attend, we would love to see you there. And I believe that is it for this evening. Thank you all for being present.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Frisbee.
Thank you, Council President.
Mhm.
So good evening, everyone. I want to address as well the ordinance 24-05. Let you know that we hear everything that you're saying. Every time first of all, we thank you for coming out and giving your time to this, knowing that it is important to you makes it also important to us. So thank you for that. And I also thank Councilman Harrison for his diligence in bringing all this together. Hopefully we can work together and get this so that everybody has it comes out agreeable for everyone. I wanted to stop and pause for Ms. E. Phillips and say congratulations. I'm excited about you. That is absolutely phenomenal. And I would love to get more information on that and how if no one else, can best support you in that. So I'm excited for you, and I look to see you doing bigger, better, more things in the community. And I wanted to say congratulations again to Jair Brown, who we were excited about, the mayor did a phenomenal job. The city and all of its workers, everyone, the community came out beautifully to support him yesterday as we gave him the key to the city. Absolutely good time, good feel, good vibes. And it's nice to see things like that where we can celebrate our children, what they're doing, the great things that they're doing in our community. So I'm excited that we actually did that. We were able to get that done. Excuse me. I wanted to let you know that on Sunday, March 17th at Greater Mount Zion, they're having their Women's Day, and they are inviting everyone to come out at 10 a.m. And that's at 42 Pennington Avenue here in the city of Trenton. There were some other, and the Smith Family Foundation of New Jersey. They have we have our spring community empowerment workshops. Classes begin on Monday, March 11th at 6 p.m. You can go on their website. It is a really enlightening conversation that you will have. Their website is sffnj.org. That's for the Smith Family Foundation's their empowerment workshop. And also, if you are a nonprofit organization here in the city of Trenton, they're giving out grants. The grant cycle is now open as well. So please go on the website and check for that. If you are a graduating high school, will be a graduating high school senior, they will be giving out grants for that as well. Watch the website for that as well. And on that note, I've got 2 minutes whole left. I'm early. I want to close with saying, recognizing that the people of Trenton, this is our city's mission statement, recognizing that the people of Trenton have made us guardians of the public trust. We are committed to govern with integrity and fiscal responsibility, to seek excellence in the city's operations, and to serve all the city's people with respect and compassion. I thank everyone for coming out here. I thank our directors, all of you, our constituents, for coming out. Your time and your presence are greatly appreciated. Have a great evening and get home safely.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Right. Councilwoman Edwards.
Thank you, Council President.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming out. I just want to say Trenton just had a recent all-star weekend, very successful all-star weekend, starting with the celebrity basketball game. So I just want to again say thank you to our fire director, Kenneth Douglas, for participating as one of the players in the game, as well as our council president, Crystal Feliciano, and myself. A couple of local entrepreneurs had put together a game to uplift the community, and they brought out local influencers from various industries in the community and honored a lot of local neighborhood heroes to uplift the community and provide some encouragement for those that need it. So I just want to say thank you for helping to make their visions come to life and being a part of that. And the All-Star weekend ended with, of course, Jair Brown receiving the key to the city yesterday. So congratulations to him, well deserved. He is a local Trenton native that was just recently drafted to the NFL, to the San Francisco 49ers. For those that don't know who he is 24 years. No, he's number 27, but he is 24 years old as of January 25th this year. So he's a young guy that is very involved, has football teams around the city, is always giving back. So it was just a big honor for us to be in partnership with the mayor and giving him a key to the city on behalf of the Trenton residents. This ordinance for animals, I just want to reiterate some of the things that I said at the previous meeting, just on a record that I would like for us to strike chickens from the ordinance because it is a food source. It is a cultural thing as well. We do have farms, plurally, in the city of Trenton that has a great potential to grow, and we want to see that. There are petting zoos that come to the city by permit and things like that, and this would be a severe hindrance on them. I do believe that the state of New Jersey has done their due diligence with banning a lot of wildlife, and I think that we should take heed to that and also just enforce the ordinance that we already have in existence, which is Chapter 21, animals. And if you look under Article 3 of keeping of birds and animals, you will see that all of the regulations, the exceptions, the sanitary requirements, the license that's required, the inspections, the suspensions of licenses, all of those processes, nuisances, license fees, and the limitation of the number of animals, as well as an administrative hearing process and violations and penalties is all spelled out already. And I think that the issue that we are facing here is enforcement, because emus are already on a list of being banned from here, and chickens are a part of the birds of approval by the state. And to everyone's points, you all made great points, and I concur with you. And with that being said, council is not going to always agree on this, but I just would like for us to just respectfully agree to disagree sometimes, and we just have to find a happy medium and a balance. Some people may not like the chickens, especially the roosters, because they are loud. But and with that, I am willing to digress on and compromise on with having having roosters stay on the list because of the noise. But the chickens, the hens, they provide a food source, not just meat, but eggs as well. And I do agree with the sentiments that it does bring community together. And that was something I highlighted in my previous comments as well. During my annual visits to the Mill Hill Garden Tour, we often see the chickens and they give out the eggs and things, and it's a beautiful experience. So I would like for us to just, like I said, enforce this. The chickens are supposed to be licensed and registered through the city clerk's office. I believe there's a $10 annual license registration fee that they have to renew. And a health officer or an officer from the police department can do the inspections as well to make sure that their habitat is adequate according to our existing ordinance, and making sure that the sanitary requirements are being enforced as well, so that we're not having feces washed out into common spaces and for the public to have to walk through. So thank you. That's the end of my comments. And have a good evening.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Council Vice President Figueroa Kettenberg,
Yes, good evening. Can you guys hear me okay?
go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Please excuse my absence this evening as I'm under the weather due to our crazy weather that we've been having lately. So regarding the wildlife ordinance, I look forward to taking concerns into consideration. I'm worried primarily about inhumane issues of keeping these types of animals captive without proper care. I'm sure the council can come into agreement a way of potentially keeping our chickens under proper care and while following proper guidelines. I look forward to having further conversations regarding what is and is not allowed. As I understand, Southwood residents are affected and not in agreement of the ordinance, as many others are. So we need to decide what's best for the city as a whole and keep with alignment of proper permits, keeping, maintenance, so on and so forth. So I would like to have further conversations with my council colleagues as we internalize what the public is saying about this particular ordinance. With regards to the parking ticket that was mentioned, I know conversations with parking authority mean people thinking that they are parking appropriately, but I have had no enforcement for some time, and why somewhat more vigorous enforcement, others are not happy, as we know. So we need to get to a point where we are abiding by the ordinances and people are clearly and concisely apprised of the enforced ordinances, and our enforcement people are appropriately trained. There's no nonsense enforcement policies in other municipalities when it comes to parking, and there's no reason why our city can't abide by the same. And I just think that it's going to take a little bit of a transition to where we can understand, as a capital city municipality, there are certain laws and ordinances and guidelines that we need to abide by, and parking is one of them. We have very limited parking within the city. We need residential parking permits. We need to abide by signs. We need to not park in front of hydrants, park too close to curbs, crosswalks, and so on and so forth. So I prayerfully hope that we can get to that point where we know our limitations, you know, within the guidelines of our city parameters. Other than that, I just want to salute all of our community MVPs for everything that you all do, all the great things that come out of this city, all the salutations, all the commitments, and all the recognitions. You know, we salute greatness within our city, and I'm just happy for everything that people keep doing. So, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Setting the clock for myself. Thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight and for staying. We appreciate you. Thank you for speaking up tonight. We appreciate that as well. Excuse me. Good dialogue is always important, right? And so we're here to serve you. And so it's great when you actually come out and you talk to us about how best we can do that. And it's about compromise and working together and hearing and actually listening to what someone is saying, right? So I just want to touch on briefly the ordinance about the wildlife, right? The chickens and everything. I know that when this was constructed, the councilman had the very best intentions when he was looking to put this together. Again, looking to help solve some of the problems of people, you know, within this city. Now, since all of the emails and everything that we have received, makes you kind of look at things a little bit differently, right? But I'm going to tell you that I did receive a couple of complaints of someone who had chickens who I guess were beheading the chicken, doing whatever was happening with the chicken, discarded of the body in the trash can, did not take care of it as it was supposed to, trash can full of maggots. This is what is happening in certain people's areas. So while there may be a section that does address the sanitation of the animals and things like that, if you're going to have it, can you kill it? Can you not kill it? What are we doing? We do need to talk about what that looks like. And we do need to talk about how we can address that issue in and of itself, and then how we can enforce it as well. Council has been putting together some really good ordinances. We've been rolling them out, right? And then sometimes there's certain things that can be enforced, and then there's certain things that can't, because we hear, well, we don't have the adequate staff that can enforce what's going on. I think that we've reached a point where we need to pull away from that and then maybe revisit and look at the staff or the things that we do have, right? And how we can help to enforce. For example, I'll be talking to, and I send emails all the time, but talking about utilizing the parking enforcement people who are out there hitting people with the tickets with the cars, doing their job like they're supposed to. Maybe, just maybe, we could think about utilizing them to help out with garbage inspections. If they see people out there with the trash, they can issue them tickets. Maybe, just maybe, we could utilize them as they're looking at some of these abandoned structures to say some things that's going on. Maybe, just maybe, we could utilize them when it comes to certain things if they see animals that are being mistreated or whatever. Like, we have to utilize what we have. The time has come where we have to stop looking at where we could be. We know where we want to be, but this is where we are. And so we need to start better utilizing our resources in order to meet the needs of what's happening. That being said, I do want to shout out our police department. Thank you, Director Wilson, for and to your staff for coming out. I live on Riverside Drive. I'm on the island. Then people been out there riding ATVs like it's summertime, crazy. And I was like, oh my God, it's the same time. It seems like every night. I've had to call the police 2 nights in a row. They've come out, they've taken care of it. I think I actually got an email from a neighbor saying that last night they believe they actually got one of the ATVs and they caught them because, excuse me, I'm sorry, people are speaking up because people are tired. They're like, look, this the house where they at. This is where it's coming from. Leave me out of it. Just make it happen. And so we're making it happen. So what I want to say is thank you to those people who trust us with the process, who trust us with reporting. I got emails about people who were mistreating animals, taking the dogs, throwing them outside, leaving them out there, doing them any kind of way, overbreeding female dog. I'm sending the emails out. They're like, listen, I want to tell you what's happening, but please just keep me anonymous. Believe and trust and know we do that. I do that. We're not saying your names. We're sending the information on. And then thank you to Health and Human Services for those people at the animal shelter that are finally going out and doing these things with more haste, right? And then thank you to the HELO officers, I think it is, that go out. But it's time. We need to stop. We have good ordinances in place. We have penalties in place. People need to pay. Sometimes you got to hit them in the pocket to make them understand. We're tired. I said before, it's a new day. Thank you to all of you for coming out and expressing. Continue to do that. And please believe in us and continue to trust the process. We are here to do the work. Thank you. Good night. Well, not good night, but thank you. Mr. Garcia.
Yes, Madam President. On your call, Madam President.
Please continue.
Certainly. Continuing with the docket, Madam President, we are reach if there are any questions regarding, you will have minutes for approval for the next meeting. They will be the trailing minutes from 11:02. If there's any questions about communications and petitions, if you'd like to entertain those now. Hearing none, moving forward to reports, the same goes to reports and on into ordinances. Ordinance 24-15, an ordinance regulating keeping certain animals and wildlife in the city of Trenton. If there's any questions, Madam President, at this time, or any discussion?
Madam President.
Councilwoman Edwards.
With all due respect to Councilman Harrison, because this was a well thought ordinance and this was a much needed conversation because we do need enforcement in the city, especially for people bringing in illegal wildlife and breaking not only our city ordinances, but our state statutes as well. So we need to focus on enforcement. But with that being said, I would like to motion to table this until we have further discussion, visit our existing ordinance and maybe looking at that to amend that to provide more specificity on what types of exotic wildlife so that it's on our ordinance and not just on a state statute, because in looking at this, it just says birds, but it doesn't specify what types of birds are permissible or prohibited. So those are my thoughts and an official motion.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Council President?
Councilwoman Williams.
Ma'am, I concur with my colleague, but I also have a constituent who asked me, she cannot attend.
One second. I'm sorry, Councilwoman Williams. We do have a motion on the floor, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
So don't want to.
Or should I redact that before while everybody speaks?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
I'm sorry, is she withdrawing that motion or?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Continue. I'm sorry,
I
Councilwoman.
appreciate that.
Go ahead.
So one of my constituents, Kelly Muji, who she lives in the North Ward, Mill Hill section, and has chickens. She has something that I would like to read into the record as a statement.
Okay.
She's unable to attend us because of work reasons.
Okay.
Dear council members, keeping hens, female chickens provides numerous benefits. Oh goodness, I'm sorry. It just disappeared from my screen. Here we go. Okay. Benefits to families and communities, and they should not be banned in Trenton. The primary reason for chickens is as loved and cared for pets with endearing personalities and amusing antics that can brighten one's day and significantly reduce stress. In addition to that, they provide many other benefits, including their eggs are a fantastic source of fresh, nutritious food rich in protein, vitamins, and minerals. They help reduce waste by consuming food scraps and other kitchen waste. Their manure is one of the best fertilizers available for gardens. Chickens also consume weeds, vast quantities of ticks and mosquitoes and other garden pests like grubs. Keeping chickens also helps to continue our connection to our cultural and historical heritage of farming. They promote food security and independence and are a way to supplement household groceries and protect against price gouging. Chickens are low maintenance, inexpensive, and adapted to various climates. They promote locally grown sustainable food and allow people to know that the food they are eating is responsibly and humanely raised. When well maintained, small flocks of hens, female chickens, and not roosters result in no odor, no pest, very little noise, and are not a nuisance to neighbors and communities. In fact, keeping chickens can help to build community and connect with neighbors. Children can learn valuable lessons about nature, responsibility, and the food cycle through caring for chickens. Overall, having a small backyard flock is an enjoyable, eco-friendly, and rewarding endeavor for households of any size. Many towns around New Jersey and the country have addressed the regulation of chickens through separate, well-researched ordinances with specific requirements, which can include registration fees, coop and yard inspections, coop and run limitations, density restrictions, and more. This can help to ensure that chickens are kept in a healthy, safe, and humane environment and that they are not a nuisance for neighbors. Hens, female chickens, egg-laying chickens should be exempted from this ordinance or tabled for additional discussion, research, and consideration. Thank you.
Councilman Harrison, is there anything that you'd like to add before we go back to the motion to table? Okay. Anyone else? Okay, Councilwoman Evers.
Thank you, Council President. I would like to motion to table ordinance 24-015.
So motion, is there a second?
Second?
It's been moved and second. I'll call the roll. Councilwoman Edwards.
Yes.
Vice President Figueroa Kettenberg.
Yes.
Councilwoman Frisbee.
Yes.
Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Yes.
Councilman Harrison.
No.
Noted. And Councilwoman Williams
Yes.
and Council President Feliciano.
Yes.
Motion carried. Item is tabled. Moving on, we have.
One second, point of order, Mr. Garcia. I'm sorry.
Certainly.
Councilwoman Edwards, tabled until what time? We didn't specify when. We don't want this to be indefinite. So when are we tabling this until? If I can ask that question, Mr. K. Can I ask that question?
Yeah.
Until the next meeting?
The rules of procedure that we've been using is tabled until the person who tables it brings it up for a vote to untable it, and then it goes by the majority vote with respect to untable. There's no date specific, it's just a motion by.
But it can be.
How we've operated in the past under the rules of procedure that we drafted some time ago is the individual who tables it has to make a motion to untable, at which point in time it goes to a vote of the body.
Okay, thank you.
Unless, now that being said, the rules are silent with respect to if that member wants to table it to a date specific. If that be the case, then that should be identified today, what date it's going to be untabled and put to a vote to the body to untable that ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Bridges. I'm just, with all due respect, I just have to ask Mr. Kaloji one moment. Is that proper? I just want to know whether the individual that tables the item is responsible for untabling.
Well, Mr. Bridges just brought up an issue. He said, based on rules that were promulgated, I'm not aware if they happened before I was here. I know we have done it where someone moves to table it and then someone else can move to untable it. But I'll speak to Mr. Bridges about this. For the interim, it's tabled and we'll resolve it by the next meeting.
Understood.
If I can interject, it was actually an issue with respect to litigation some time ago in terms of council taking things on and off of the docket, and that was the rules of procedure that we came up with probably 3 years ago in terms of untabling things. So I'll circulate that to Mr. Kaloji and the body for their benefit.
And to further
Thank you, sir.
add on to that, since we've been in council, we've actually been practicing bringing them back at the next conference meeting.
Yeah.
So that those things don't happen because of, needless to say, I'm not going to mention them, it needs to come back.
Yeah, we don't, I just don't want
Then-
this
Yeah. So if
lingering
we could
out there.
bring it
and-
back to
and
19.
Let's settle it.
I think for purposes of clarity, then what the procedure would be to table it until the next meeting
Yes.
to allow communications,
Yeah.
revisions that needed. So I think that would be the motion on the table, to table it till the next council meeting.
Yes, which would be March 19th.
Are we satisfied with the vote that was taken? Or do we
Well,
require?
because the first vote just said to table it. Now we're saying, so let's take another,
So do we have another motion on the floor to table until the next public meeting?
Until March 19th.
Until March 19th?
Council President? a
Yes,
motion
Councilwoman
to-
Edwards.
Thank you. A motion to table ordinance 24-015 until our next meeting, March 19, 2024.
Thank you. Second.
Been moved in second. I'll call the roll. Councilwoman Edwards.
Yes.
Vice President Figueroa Kettenberg. Yes. Councilwoman Frisbee.
Yes.
Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Yes.
Councilman Harrison.
No.
Noted. Councilwoman Williams
Yes.
and Council President Feliciano.
Yes.
Motion carried. Item is tabled until the 19th.
Thank you.
Moving on
Yes.
to resolutions. Madam President, if there are any items that you or the council wish to extract from a consent agenda at this time? If you would name those, or if
Do any council members have any items that they would?
Council President?
You notice I look that way, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Councilwoman Williams.
24087,
Okay.
24091, 24092, 24097. And that would be it, ma'am.
Thank you. Any other council person?
Madam President, I have the Council Vice President.
Go ahead, Council Vice President. I'm sorry.
Thank you. 24088 and 09.
I'm sorry, once again, I apologize.
I'm sorry, 24-088 and 089.
Got it?
And, hold on,
Oh, yeah, I got it. Yep, thank you.
24091.
We have that.
1 second, I'm so sorry. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other Councilwoman Edwards?
Thank you. I want to say we're naturally roll calling 24-084 for workers' comp. Is that what we're going to be going into executive session for?
Yes.
Should we roll call that?
Yes.
Is that on there?
Yes.
Okay.
So the items that require executive session will be extracted from the consent agenda as well. Are there any other items?
Correct. Do you have anything else, Councilwoman? Anyone else? Okay. All right, so based upon what we've heard, we are pulling out 24087, 24088, 24091, 24092, 24097.
And I have 089 and 084, correct?
089. Who said?
I believe I heard that
089?
right.
You said,
And also 083, which would be for executive session as well.
right, okay. Thank you,
And then 91, 92.
thank you.
She called those, yep. Okay, so that would leave us, with a consent agenda for the remaining items and moving us on to ordinances for first reading.
Mhm.
On to ordinances for first reading. And Madam President, would you like me to read these ordinances aloud? And if you have any discussion, obviously.
Yes,
Ordinance 24-16, ordinance amending ordinance 23-25, creating a senior advisory council by the city of Trenton, reintroduced to correct errors.
yes,
Oh, yeah.
Ordinance 24-17, ordinance amending ordinance 23-50 to release, vacate, and extinguish any and all public rights in and to the remaining portion of Baker Alley.
Mhm.
Ordinance 24-18, ordinance authorizing the sale of city-owned property commonly known as Baker Alley and identified on the city tax map, block 23803, lot 19, pursuant to NJSA 481213B5 to El Catador Bar and Grill for the sale price of $1,000.
Mhm.
Ordinance 24-19, ordinance to release, vacate, and extinguish any and all public rights in a portion of Haddam Alley. And Madam President, if you'll indulge me for one moment, Mr. Beach, you want to go ahead and explain that? So we're good? Thank you, sir. If there are, I'm sorry, Madam President, if there are any questions regarding those ordinances, if you want to entertain those now.
Thank you. Does any council person have any questions about the ordinances that were read?
Yes, Council President.
Go ahead,
I
Councilman
just have
Williams.
a quick question regarding the ordinance regarding Baker Alley, both of them. And I just want to confirm, because on the map that was provided with the ordinance itself, and then visually seeing it, the only area that would be sold to the owners of the El Cantador Bar would be the portion directly behind the bar, because Baker Street is a very cockeyed street in a way that it starts at Spruce Street, goes for quite a long distance, then picks up, goes for a bit, and then it stops because it's blocked by a building. So I just wanted to make sure for the public verbally that it is only that portion, ma'am.
From my understanding, it is, but Mr. Beach, if you could speak to that, please. Thank you.
Jim Beach, Acting Director of HED. That's correct, Councilwoman. So it's only going to be that portion that's next to the El Catador.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions about any of the ordinances read here? Thank you. Okay, you can continue. Mr.
Certainly.
Garcia, thank you.
I believe, Madam President, that leaves us to executive session at this time. Understood. And I think we have reached that point we've reached that point now.
Yeah, we're
To
here.
executive session. So with that in mind, Madam President, if you want to ask for a motion to go into executive session.
May I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
And so I'm clear to the solicitors, we do not anticipate a vote coming out of executive today, right? Thank you. We do not anticipate a vote coming out of executive session at this time. I had a motion in a second, correct?
Yes.
That was moved by? I'm sorry.
Williams, I believe,
Williams?
and then second by Councilwoman Edwards.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Been moved in second. I'll call the roll. Councilwoman Edwards?
Yes.
Vice President Figueroa Kettenberg? Vice President, are you there? Vice President, are you there? Oh, okay. We had a motion in a second. I'm going through the roll call to go into executive session. Thank you. Councilwoman Frisbee?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gonzalez?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. Councilman Harrison?
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams?
Yes.
And Council President Feliciano?
Yes, but one moment, please. B.A. Cruz has something he'd like to say before.
Certainly.
Vacate. Thank you.
Yeah, this is actually regarding the ordinances to vacate Baker Alley and at the same time sell Baker Alley. That cannot happen on the same agenda, because you first need to do first reading, you need to do second reading. Once the ordinance becomes law, which is 10 days after it's enacted, then you can proceed, after those 10 days are due, to proceed to sell the property. But you cannot have both of them writing on the same agenda until that happens. So
Thank you for that. Who was supposed to tell us that, though? Who was supposed to tell us that
Well,
before we got to this point? But,
Yeah.
Didn't,
Yeah.
but I'm sorry, Council President.
Yes.
I thought we did, we didn't do the selling, but we did do the vacating a while ago.
no,
We did-
well,
We approved to, If I'm not mistaken, it was like, I want to say October or November. I got to pull my notes, but I thought we did that.
So if you look at page 5,
I know.
2417, it's an ordinance amending the ordinance to release, vacate, and extinguish any and all public rights.
So maybe that was the same one, but we voted on allowing Baker's Alley to get sold, but I thought that he just didn't come into council, we didn't approve for him to, on a dollar amount, basically.
So, right.
I gotta
so-
go back and look,
So
but
we
I think
need,
it was
we need for the vacating of the alley to actually be
verbiage.
fully
Okay.
completed in order for us to proceed to sell the property. We're not saying we're not going to sell it at the time, but this has to take effect. Mayor has to sign off on the ordinance or wait for it to become law 10 days after it is adopted after the second reading, and then we can proceed to sell the land.
So just to be clear, okay, thank you. So just to be clear, there was never anything prior to this about vacating the property.
I don't know. I just caught this now. I'm
You
not
just got
sure
it.
if this was
Okay.
vacated in the past.
Council President, if I may,
Yes.
I'll get clarification that I thought that this vacation, the vacating of it was done.
Mhm.
If not, I will have an answer to you tomorrow morning. And I think the solution would be, if it has not been vacated before, there's the
Thursday.
amendments to delete the sale of it and just deal with the vacating of the property to allow it 10 days to have it on for the following meeting. But I'll get clarification on tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, BA
Thank you.
Cruz. Thank you.
Madam President, I believe the Vice President has some comments.
Yes, Vice President. And then
Yeah, really
Councilwoman
briefly,
Edwards.
thank you for bringing this up, BA Cruz. I was actually confused about this myself, as I had been working on getting Shannon Alley vacated for quite some time and then sold. And I think that a question did come up as to the sale, the vacation and the sale of Baker, and then only the vacation of Hannah Alley. So that does provide clarity as to one being done first, versus, and then the other could be done after that. So thank you for that. We were seeking answers for that.
Did you have a question, Council Vice President?
No, he provided clarity. So I just
Okay.
wanted to show that was the question that was being asked, but he was not present in our last
Okay,
doctor review. Yes, thank you.
thank you, Councilwoman Edwards.
I just wanted to, I guess, second what Councilwoman Gonzalez was saying, because stapled to it, we definitely passed this ordinance back in September, but I don't really see a difference between that and this. Is there a difference? Is there a reason why this is coming back? Well, there are a couple, okay. I see that there is a slight difference on the second page of the ordinance.
Director
So
Bridges.
there's 6 points, whereas the original one we passed in September was 5 points.
I'm sorry, I was speaking with the business administrator. Can you repeat that, Councilwoman?
So on the original one that we passed back in September, there is a slight difference on the second page of it where it goes up to 5 points, but on the new one it's 6 points. So are we?
Which, I'm sorry, are we talking about the alley still?
Yes, is the new one an amendment to that? Because we've seemingly already relinquished our rights and ownership to the alley. And now it's back in
September,
September 28th.
because we even sponsored it.
And where's the discrepancy, Councilwoman? I'm sorry.
She's saying that that was already done.
September.
back in September.
Yeah, in September.
But this is Baker Alley. When we talking
Right.
about Hannah?
So
We're talking about Baker.
we're talking about Baker
Oh.
Alley.
That's what's stapled onto the back of what?
Oh, so it was done.
It was done.
It was done. That's what I thought it was done, but but
Sorry.
based on the comments, they said it wasn't.
So
That's what Councilwoman Gonzalez is saying. So what is the difference?
there is a difference. So if we look at the second page on both of them, number 3 is more extensive than the original. The original states any existing rights of public utilities and CATV companies are expressly reserved and accepted from
This
this
one.
ordinance. But the new one says, it says that, and it says in any and all easements of record or necessity. So, and then, so for water and sewer utilities, so I think that this one is
To-
simply an amendment.
To put on my council president's hat, who did that initial one? Who wrote that? Because to your point, you are correct in that if it's a substantial amendment, we have to go through this amendment first if it changes the dynamics, the square footage, whatever the case may be. So to Business Administrator Cruz's point, if this is an amendment that is changing the scope of that alley or the scope of the vacating, we have to pass this first today, Thursday, excuse me, and then 10 days thereafter, then bring a subsequent ordinance for the sale of this. I guess my question is, how did the amendments come about? Not that it's important, germane for the issues here today, but we're going to have to pass this first before we can sell it.
Right, so, and I'm seeing the difference. So the first one, it doesn't say anything about how this is, so this new one, the amended version is relinquishing like water and sewer services. It also says that the city's chief engineer and or the engineer for streets shall record this vacation of Baker Alley in the street block and on a city atlas. So it's pretty much restructuring our property lines or their property lines to include that portion of Baker Alley into the existing property of El Catador restaurant. So yeah, so pretty much we relinquished our rights. We just didn't do it completely the first time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Beach, you have something you want to say?
Yes, ma'am. I think it's somewhat echoing the councilwoman's comments, but if we look at the original one, it relinquished or preserved existing rights of public utilities and the cable companies in terms of their easement. The amendment not only repeated those, but then added those of the city of Trenton for water and sewer services. So that's the nature of the amendment that is before you tonight, including then also the designation or the recording on the street book and city atlas, which I'm not sure is a material change, but simply a recording in those books.
Madam President.
Oh,
does
I'm
that-
sorry.
Oh.
No, go ahead.
Whatever. Council President, sorry.
I'm like, okay. Director Bridges.
No, to Councilwoman and Mr. Beach's point, I think discretion be the better part of valor and being overly cautious. I don't think that we have a sense of urgency. It has to get done immediately. I think the proper course of action would be to have this passed first and whatever amendments there may be, and then following the rules of procedure 10 days thereafter to have the sale of that. That's the proper method for this and one that is beyond any scrutiny or any appeal. So and unless Mr. Kaloji disagrees with me, I think we have to read these amendments in. That has to be voted upon. Once that's adopted, then we can go forth and proceed with the sale of that alley.
Okay, so Mr. Garcia?
I wanted to jump in and actually rewind, Madam President, because directors are here this evening, and for the items that were extracted from the consent agenda, the proposed consent agenda.
Oh,
if
yeah.
they would address those items.
I'm sorry.
So since they're all here, and I know you guys don't want to come back on Thursday.
Wait a minute, so before we do that, where are we with this? So we're going to pull the sale from this at this time. So we're going to pull that one from it.
Correct.
We're going to leave the amended to vacate and everything on. And then after the 10 days after the next one, then we'll move forward with the sale of the property at that time, right?
Council President, yes. And
It's 20 days, I thought,
Yeah. So, Madam President.
for ordinance, right?
Hi. Madam President.
Yes.
Being that this ordinance was actually introduced by the administration would like to pull it at this time.
Okay.
So this is actually resolution 2418 that we will be pulling until the other process takes its place and is all in order.
Okay.
we'd like, and just to add
It
clarification.
doesn't have to be tabled, we're pulling it.
And
Yes.
To add
Just a
clarification,
sale,
Yes. The other one's
Okay.
fine, just until they
right?
get through that, then I'll put it
So
back.
Council President, can I just say something for the record?
Yes.
Just, I know that the owner has been patiently waiting for a long time and is becoming frustrated. And I'm just, I hear a lot of talk about legal action taken against us because of the money that's being lost. So that was the only reason why I was concerned about it being put on the agenda. But, so he would have to wait another 10 days, and then once we do this bill of sale, then it's gonna be another 20 days?
So there's actually, this is first reading. At the next council meeting, there will be a second
19.
reading, and of course, you have to have a public
And then it's
hearing.
another-
Once that vote takes place, the day after, which will be Thursday, that will be day one of the 10 days.
Right.
And then after the 10 days, you can bring it back, or it could be placed on the agenda, which it will be probably beyond the 10 days for the next council meeting, which will be in April, the first meeting in April, perhaps.
yeah, and that's what, just to kind of flesh out what Mr. Cruz was saying, maybe it's similar to what Councilwoman Edwards did, tabling it earlier, table it to a date specific, i.e. the next council meeting, so there is no delay. Three council meetings, not.
You're pulling it.
So that is why we're not tabling it.
You pulled it.
We're pulling it, and we will make sure that it gets on the next docket as soon after the 10th day it's actually done.
This 2014.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
Mhm.
Madam President,
Councilwoman
I
Williams?
just want to make sure I understand. So we're selling this for $1,000 and the gentleman who's purchasing is considered
So then-
action against the city? It would cost more for a lawyer.
So let me speak to that for 1 second.
I'm sorry, that's news. I did not hear that before.
Right. It's 20 days, right, for an ordinance. So. I gave it back, didn't I? No, I gave it back. Okay, so to Councilwoman Williams' question about the owner saying that he wanted to take legal action against the city for loss of revenue. It was my understanding that, and what we read and everything, is that it is just merely to extend the outdoor patio to use that alleyway. So in fact, it's not a loss of revenue. He ain't got the revenue yet. The revenue would come once the extension happened. So I'm not sure why he would want to sue. I'm not a lawyer, but there's nothing for him to sue for because he's not lost any revenue because the operation is still up and functioning with no problem. So I mean, I can't speak for anyone, Councilwoman, but I just maybe, as she expressed, being frustrated, just trying to get this
Sure,
done.
no, I
From
appreciate
my
that.
understanding, this has been a long time in the works. There were different conversations with different people who were in administration when this first started. Things were said that weren't adhered to, and now we're finally at a point where he can actually purchase. So I'm hopeful that he'll have to wait it out. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
where we are with this, right? In light of this.
No, and
So,
it'll get right.
yeah,
Sure,
but I
just-
don't think.
Yeah, the other
he's
part too
really
is make sure that zoning.
Yeah, you
cleared
can't
this
sue for
him,
revenue you
too.
wasn't gonna get for something that wasn't built
Yeah.
yet. Thank you.
Thank
Anyone
you.
else have anything else they'd like to say on this?
Madam President?
No. Go ahead, Councilwoman.
I just want to say, because we've been throwing 10 days out there, that according to our New Jersey Rules of Procedure for the city of Trenton, it is 10 days after the second reading and passage and approval by council that an ordinance goes into effect. So it has to be 20 days
Right.
after the second reading.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So he can't buy it till after 20 days after. Okay. We good. Are there any more questions about this? So the administration pulled the sale of the alley. So now we can go ahead and get to discussion while our directors are here. I'm sorry, we were so excited that we were moving so quickly. We're looking at 24087. There were questions about that. If someone would address 24087. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Mhm.
So I just have a question if the police director can just explain for public consumption what this trunk system will be used for. and the connection to the police, state police. I know we had a lot of issues in the past with communication software and actual equipment that the city purchased, and it was delayed in purchasing, not by the fault of the police department.
So hold on one second, I get my paperwork out. Steve Wilson, Police Director. Okay, what this resolution is for is we had purchased a new radio system. And this is the maintenance agreement for that radio system for the next 2 years at a cost of $50,000 a year. And what it is we're entering in this agreement with the state of New Jersey to maintain the infrastructure that we built for the new radio system. That's it.
Okay.
But I also want to bring to your attention that in the next year and a half or so, I'll be coming, if I'm still here, I'll be coming forward to ask to extend our service warranty on the equipment that we purchased, and that would be the Motorola equipment that we purchased. The factory warranty will be running out in about a year and a half, and they have an extended warranty packages that I'll present at that time. So just giving you all a heads up.
Sir, if I might ask, actually, with that equipment, are you happy with the performance of it, or the police department?
Yes,
What
but
about
we're not
surprise?
fully operational yet. We hope to throw the switch in about 2 months. And the whole entire city will be up on that, police and fire, and then all public works as well. But we have to get this in place first. And then, like I said, in about a year and a half, we're looking to get an extended warranty on the equipment that we purchased.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, that can go on consent.
So we're moving that to consent, okay? Thank you. 24088. Council Vice President, thank you. Council Vice President?
For our DACA review. And I just wanted to know, and I don't really think that my question was answered to the standard that I would want it to be answered to. I wanted to know why we were using ARP funds for uniform for the firefighters. Under what criteria would it have qualified to be used for the purchase of uniforms?
Thank you. So what she's looking for is what criteria that these uniforms fall under that you would use the funds, the ARPA funds to purchase them. That was the question.
Thank you
Mr.
for the
Beach, thank you.
clarification, Council President.
Mhm.
Jim Beach, Chief of Staff. So Council Vice President, the regulations are fairly broad in terms of the permissible uses. The one area that we were focused on is public safety, and this is a part of the city's public safety program. And the regulations interpreting the statute and the guidance for American Rescue Plan specifically says that, you know, the examples they give in there are not exhaustive, and that the statute is to be interpreted liberally. And so that's the basis on which we're using the American Rescue Plan funding.
Okay, thank you for that. I know that the response that I had received was that the amount for the Trenton firefighter, and I wanted to put this disclaimer out there before I continue speaking, that I obviously completely support anything that our Trenton firefighters need, our TPD as well. I just want to make sure we're spending our money appropriately. So one of the responses that I got was that because the funding, I guess, for the uniforms had exceeded the annual budget expenditures. So it almost seemed like we were just kind of making up a pocket to cover this cost because that money was not there.
I don't know what she said. Mr.
Council
Garcia, what?
Council Vice President, you're gonna have to repeat that one, and we all promised to be quiet. Hold on one second.
Okay, I'll try it again. Can you guys hear me a little bit better now?
How's that, Jen? Want to approach and listen? Want to approach and listen?
Why don't you give him the phone?
Yeah, probably best idea.
Go ahead, Council Vice President. Let me repeat it for the body. So Council Vice President's concern was that she had been given an explanation, and I'm not sure who gave her this explanation, that the reason that the ARP funds were being used for the uniforms was because there was not enough money in the budget, the city's budget, to pay for these new uniforms, and which gives rise to her concern of whether this was an appropriate expenditure of ARP money. I'm not sure where that explanation came from. That was not the premise on which the city based its resolution and its use. That explanation was what I explained earlier to the body, and I'm comfortable. And Council Vice President, I'm comfortable that we are using these funds properly in this instance.
Okay, then that's fine. Like I said, again, I am in no way against funds being utilized for our Trenton police and our firefighters. I just want to make sure we were using it appropriately. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Council Vice President, they'd like to know whether you're comfortable moving it to consent agenda.
Yes.
Yes.
Same one, okay. So Council Vice President, did you also select 24089 under that's the same thing, so you're good with moving that to consent agenda as well? Thank you. So Mr. Garcia, when you stepped away, 24087 has moved to consent agenda as well. And then we have 24088 and 24089 added to consent. Yes, thank you. 24091.
Thank you, Council President.
Yes, ma'am.
Just wanted to ask for an explanation of what the transfer is, and actually, if I answer both of them at the same time, from the cycle year 2023 appropriation reserves, and then following to that 24092 with your blessing regarding the temporary budget of the city of Trenton having the emergency appropriation of $918,000.
You were not speaking into the mic,
Oh, I'm
but I think
sorry
I have
about
an
that.
idea what you said.
Yeah, just what both of them are, Mr. Cruz. I apologize.
Okay, good evening, Council. Adam Cruz, Business Administrator. I apologize for not mentioning my name at the prior responses. My apologies.
Okay.
The resolution 24091 authorizing transfers in the amount of $1.583 million to be made from the capital year 2023 appropriation reserves, calendar year, my apologies, calendar year 2023. So, Madam President, the way things work is that at the end of the year, when we have money still that we did not spend at the end of December 31st, 2023, money goes into a reserve. That money is used for us to pay bills that are lingering or any debt that we may have for the 2023 year. Sometimes it's even into May, June, July. that we're still paying bills from the prior year. This appropriation of 1.583 is actually for the money that we still owed police officers that retired between the years of 2019 to 2023, which is when we finally settled the contract with the union, with PBA. So this is why we are now transferring money into this new bucket to make sure that we have enough money as we begin to make payments for those individuals that retire. We were able to make the police department whole for the police officers that were active last year. So now it's time to make sure that we have the money. And we're very fortunate. I mean, we were very diligent in keeping money in the reserves so when this day came, so we have this money available. So that is for resolution 24091. And then there's a 24092, temporary emergency appropriations. It sounds kind of similar, but they really are not. This one is actually because we don't have an adopted budget. We will always call these emergency appropriations until a budget is not just introduced, but also adopted. So we will have these on a regular basis to fill in the needs of the various departments throughout the city. So we will have these until we have an adopted budget.
Mr. Cruz, I'm sorry, did you have another question?
Yes, I just have two follow-ups, real fast, one on each. So for the first one, for the 1.5, and you mentioned the police, have
Yes.
all the retroactive increases been provided to, you said, to the active? Are there any due retirees as
Can-
far as COLAs or anything like that?
Can you repeat the question again? I'm sorry.
As far as retroactive for retirees, because recently received an email about someone.
Yes,
about
yeah.
that.
So we have the consulting company actually working on that as we speak.
Mhm.
Hopefully, we will have a resolution in the very near future.
Okay.
I actually had a meeting today with one of the representatives just to ensure that we were still on track and actually addressing the retirees payback.
Okay, thank you. No, I'm waiting for him to get finished.
Yeah, and that one, Colin just filled in. Yes, we took care of that at the last pay period.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And then with the 918, it sounds like that is a fiscal amount that we have currently that we have yet to draw upon to get us to the end of the year. That's correct?
For the,
For 92, where you have for the emergency appropriations? for
yes, what these
918?
emergency appropriations, as I mentioned, we don't
Mhm.
we don't put all of the money there because we're not permitted by law to actually use all of the money for the rest of the year. We only use what we feel we have a need for a few months. And then we come back again to you and then do another emergency appropriation. But we're not supposed to be adopting everything. If not, I will come to you with a resolution for $200 million.
Sure.
And then we're done and over with, and then there's no need to adopt the budget.
Okay, but I
Yeah.
guess my question directly is, right now, we do not have a plan to utilize that 918 until issues come up, et cetera. For example, this year, we've been blessed with a very mild winter. So any monies that Public Works would have needed for salting, hiring drivers overtime, et cetera, that money's not been expensed. So hopefully that money would go back into the Public Works budget to get us through the end of the year or maybe
Yeah.
enhance services.
So for the salt situation and to also acquire the services of a contractor, yes, we actually just use the money that we need for that time period. However, when it comes to the salt, we have an account that we actually put money to at the end of the year so that we can have money in that special account, which is like a reserve account that we use for just that alone, just for salt. This year, if you look at the budget, once it's introduced, you will see that we did not put in money for salt purposes because we were taking it out of that reserve. Yes,
Thank you for the
but yes, we also try to have enough money, as we said, as we need. So if we would have more snow in March and we have, 50 inches of snow, we will probably be coming to you to request money to fill that bucket again to make payments.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, no, thank you.
Thank you, Council President.
BA Cruz,
Yes.
speaking of the budget, when are we going to start seeing or hearing? We're into the month of March already.
The budget that we prepare has actually been reviewed. It was prepared and produced to DCA back in October of last year. We started with budget hearings for the various departments. At some point prior to November, a decision was made by DCA that there was no further need, or they were going to review what else could be done, because the numbers that we actually were projecting were actually like true numbers and not luxuries. And so they felt that there was no additional needs to do budget hearing for the other smaller departments. They went over the department, police department, fire department, DPW, recreations, and the health department. But the other departments were kind of put on hold because the majority of expenditures actually come from the departments that I mentioned. And so since then, we have been on the holding cell as per DCA, because they're now trying to figure out how much money we apply for based on the numbers that we gave DCA. There's a need for approximately $45 million in transitional aid. And DCA is actually looking at the request. So nothing has been made concrete from them as to whether they are actually will be getting the $45 million, or they're going to give us a smaller amount. So we're still are in the holding cell, just waiting for them to tell us, this is how much money you're going to get. This is the money that you have to work with, and you need to make adjustments. So we're still at that stage, and that is why we have not introduced the budget as of yet.
Yeah, because we're on, so I'm a little confused because, and I asked this before, right? That we move from fiscal to calendar, but it's almost like we're still moving on a fiscal cycle when it comes to all of this, right? And then when we met with DCA collectively, we pushed to have you guys have everything in by October, so that way we could move and kind of know what's going on. So hopefully, I mean, it just looks like we're not going to hear anything again until the summertime. And then we're still behind the 8 ball in my mind as to where we need to be if we're trying to move timely through this process. So
statutorily, I think the request from DCA based on statutes was that the budget be, after they did the amendment for municipalities to introduce the budget, I believe the amendment would have been, today would have been our opportunity, the last opportunity, if we went by state statute, for the city to introduce the budget by statute. However, we then have until the end of April or the first meeting in May to adopt the budget. Right now, because DCA is actually dealing with our finances, they make exception for transitional aid municipalities, and then we just have to wait on them to tell us exactly where we're going to be, and then make the adjustments to then proceed to introduce the budget.
right, okay, so just to be clear, today would have been the deadline for you to introduce it. And then the end of April, the 1st of May, it would be adopted.
That would be
But
for the
we're
adoption,
held up
correct?
because DCA is looking at whatever
Yes,
they're looking.
correct.
I just want to be clear on that.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam
Okay.
President.
Councilwoman Edwards.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I too recall the meeting that we had with DCA, and
Mhm.
correct me if I'm wrong, the timeline was a little bit sooner than March and April. City council was supposed to be provided an introduced budget back in January, and we were supposed to go through that before it's adopted, and then it goes to DCA for approval and back and forth. But it was supposed to start here first from the administration before it goes to DCA.
Yeah.
DCA also gave explicit instructions that transitional aid does not increase, it decreases by a certain percentage every year. So we should be able to project exactly what we would be approved for this year, at least minimally. I don't see nothing wrong with asking for more than what that minimum requirement is. The worst they can say is no, but the state statutes are what they are. Now, as far as capital city aid, that can increase in what we ask for, because rightfully so, we're the capital city, and they do occupy a lot of prominent real estate here that they are tax exempt from. So I'm still having a difficult time understanding why we're not complying with the appropriate timeline that DCA and the rest of the municipalities in New Jersey must follow. And why does the administration keep sending it there before it comes here to ask them what they would get when the state operates still on a fiscal calendar year, and we're fiscal year, we're calendar. We should have a budget ready for them before it goes to DCA and goes to the Assembly and Senate to be voted on for appropriations. So I'm having a hard time understanding why this isn't being understood.
Okay, you done? You done? All right, Madam President, if I may address her question. Okay, so going back to the first, I'm going to set the foundation. There's a state statute that state that municipalities are to introduce a budget by a certain date and adopt a budget by a certain date. When DCA came and did the presentation for council and of course the directors, they brought that to the attention of council as well, that there are dates that that we should be in compliance. When these laws were created, there was no such thing as transitional aid. So the director of local government services can actually bend those rules for municipalities for specifically transitional aid, or municipalities in the state of New Jersey, the 565 municipalities in the state of New Jersey. In December of last year, there was a local finance notice, which was the last local finance notice that was actually distributed to all municipalities that Mr. Brandon Garcia should have also gotten December of last year. And when was the date? I just want to see the date that this was actually sent. Okay, local finance notice 2023-22, December 19th, 2023. At that point, the director of local government services actually proceeded to give all municipalities in the state of New Jersey, not Trenton as a violator, all 564 municipalities in the state of New Jersey received this notification and gave them the authority to move the statutory date from the legislative date that had been created, and it was moved to the adoption for the municipal introduction and approval of the budget. Statutory date was April 10th. It got, it got moved to April 29th. I'm sorry, to March 29th. So we're still within compliance. So, the city of Trenton is not a violator. Then on the budget adoption was also moved from March 20th of March 20th. It got moved to April 30th or the meeting after, the first meeting after April 30th. And so right now, we are still, governing bodies may by resolution adopt no later than March 29th to extend the adoption of the 2024 budget and increase temporary budget appropriations as as may be necessary due to the extension. So we are still, have not violated any law because it was moved. And as I mentioned to you, we are a transitional city. We are at the discretion of the same director that sent this notice. It's the same person that tells us, how much money the city is going to get. So as of right now, unless we know the number, I cannot give you a budget and then say, okay, DCA, after I give it to the council, I'm now going to give it to you. No, we are actually at the sole discretion of DCA for us to be permitted to introduce a budget. Once the budget is once we get clearance from DCA to introduce the budget, then we can proceed to give you the copies because now we know, how much money we're dealing with for the departments and for the needs, of course, of the city. So then that goes and takes effect. If there are no changes that need to be made, then, that's the budget you may be getting once we get clearance from DCA.
Mr. Gerst, I'm sorry, Mr. Cruz.
Yes.
Councilwoman, you done? Okay, thank you, babe. So, Mr. Cruz, so in hearing what you said, I can understand, I guess, where you're coming from in your thought process with this. So I guess this is how you've been doing this all along, right? Waiting for them and then building your budget based around what they say. But the numbers are the numbers, even before them. And so they told us that because it's transitional aid, regardless of what they may give us in addition to that, right? That it would decrease by X amount percentage each year.
Yeah.
You already know what it took to run everything for 2023. You knew what that was. I'm gonna wait till he's done. You already knew what it took.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
You already knew what it took for things to run. And then you would have your projected numbers as you move into the next year about increases in staff and all of that other kind of stuff like that. So you, in theory, should be able to craft your budget for what you know you would need or even like to see, and then you would give it to DCA. They would say, okay, well, this is good. In addition to this, yeah, we will give you this, but we know that they'll give you at least the bare minimum, except for maybe what they said they would, that percentage that they would take away, right? So if you build your budget based around that, you should still be able to come up with something. Like, I don't think you should be waiting on them to say yes or no. It makes the process easier. I understand that, right? So if you knew, look, we're going to give you this money. Now you're like, great. All right, well, we could do this, and this. But you should still know ahead of time what you need, what you've spent, where we're looking to go, how we're looking to get there, to have the budget done, and then give it to them to say, great, yeah, we'll meet you there with that. Or if you took into account what they said they weren't doing, then you haven't really lost anything, if that makes any sense.
So I'm gonna answer this way, and I hope I'm not disrespectful to anyone on council.
Okay, I hope not.
When I came in in 2018, we were preparing the budget for 2019.
Okay.
At that point, we were receiving, I believe, $6 million, six something.
Okay.
The needs of the city continue to increase. If I was to stay with the formula that DCA says that we should be reducing the budget 15% every year, we would probably be at zero right now. Where do you think the city would be? So this is why we cannot go with the numbers just based on the percentage that DCA would like for us to see. We are not a city that can come up with $15 million, $10 million, $8 million, $6 million. Absolutely not. So when you're talking about a difference from 16, so last year we got $16 million in transitional aid, plus the 10 in capital, that's $26 million. If this council wants to do layoffs and go to the 15%, and let's reduce the $26 million to minus 15%, that's what we're looking at. The city said we need $45 million. And this is why you don't have a budget in front of you, because we're going not with the $26 million, but we're going with $45 million. So I think it behooves the city for us to actually wait to see what happens with DCA and not give you a budget that is going to be reflecting what I mentioned. We don't want to create chaos in the city, because if we give you a budget that reflects the numbers realistically from the numbers that we got last year, $26 million minus 15%, chaos is going to break in the city.
So let me ask you this. Thank you for that. How do we get more capital city aid? Because
It is,
transitional,
unfortunately, because it is at the will of the governor. They are the ones, this legislature, they are the ones that actually determine how we will be receiving the funding. They are stuck in that the city will receive $10 million in capital, and then the other amount will be received in transitional aid.
but if the transitional aid is there to transition and consistently decrease, then how, to your point, are they helping with this? Okay.
Yeah, so this is why there is no budget being presented to you, because those are the issues that we now have to deal with, because the city of Trenton is only continuing to need more funding. Yes, we need more redevelopment, but even if we do redevelopment in 1 year, you see that we cannot come up with $5 million from 1 year to the next, let alone $45 million. So this is why it's a difficult pill to swallow. I get it. There is frustration. This is a new council. Well, you've been here for a little bit over a year now, so you're not new anymore. But yes, there is a frustration. I get it. But there is a process that needs to be followed. We do this for the betterment of the city. And this is why, yes, I'll take it. You want to slap me around, fine. But we would much rather wait until the money comes in and they tell us exactly, we tell DCA this is the need of the city. We don't want to shortchange the city if the state can provide more funding.
Right. Thank you. Well, to be clear, no one wants to slap you around.
But verbally getting disappointed on the process.
We just want to get down to the nitty gritty.
Yes.
And just make sure that we have what we need in place for these people. So if you're saying that, again, in the result of capital city aid, us getting more of that, and the governor and everything, I would think that would be a conversation that maybe the mayor and you all should be having to try to advocate to make that happen, no?
Right, so we actually, we tried to in-person meetings with the speakers, Senate Speaker, the Assembly, Governor's Office, Legislative District Fighting 15, legislators. We do all of that every year before we get to this process. And I guess because we have voiced our concerns long enough already, this is probably like my 6th budget already, even though I've only been here for 5 years. I think we've done 6 or 7 budgets already. Because we transitioned from the fiscal to the calendar. Every year that we go put a budget in front of council, we actually have to go through this. Actually, we go through this routine with each group at a time to try to get us to hear. As you can see, I mean, they are listening, because rather than being at $2 million in transitional aid from where I started with $6 million or $8 million, we are now looking at a possibility of getting $45 million.
Well, that would be great, right? 'Cause we
Yes.
certainly could use it. All right, does any other council person have a question?
Yes, Council President.
Okay, one sec. So we'll go Councilwoman Frisbee, then we'll go Councilwoman Williams. Edwards, you have a question? So we're going Frisbee, Williams, Edwards. Thank you.
Thank you. So, thank you, Director Cruz, appreciate you. My question is what, you said DCA has, we're waiting on DCA now to confirm. What percentage is DCA asking us to reduce by in that budget?
We haven't been told yet.
So they haven't given us a percentage in which they want
Well,
us to?
they do acknowledge that there's a need for $45 million. They have acknowledged that.
Okay, so,
That is how far we've gone.
okay, because it was my understanding that they asked us to get to reduce our budget by 15%.
Well,
that-
as I mentioned before, that is actually the norm for transitional aid cities that are getting out of a hole because there is new revenue actually being generated. If we go by that formula for $15 million, we will not be looking at $16 million in transitional aid. We'll be looking at 16 minus 15%. So we will not be near the $45 million that we're asking for. So that's why we look at the needs of the city first before we even put a fight, unfortunately, Felipe. We put up a fight with DCA to say, you can't cut us, we need more funding. And so that's why we don't do the 15% cut and work with a budget like that, because as I mentioned before, that would mean, right now we have a class of 30 firefighters right now in the academy. They started last week. There will be no academy right now. Police director just graduated, I believe, 12 or 14 police officers. You can forget about that too. So that's the reason why we have to, unfortunately, not abide by the 15% reduction. Because the needs of the city continue to grow. We have personnel issues, that we need to address. Stuff is more expensive. So it's difficult to say we are going to abide by that 15% cut from the $26 million, $16 million we received last year.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. Appreciate you.
Council President. Mr. Cruz, so hopefully this is a happy question. So late, well, not even that late, it was like late summer probably, we were given a little over an extra $4 million, I believe, by DCA.
Yes, $4.9 million
which
in additional aid, correct.
Absolutely wonderful. And we're
Well,
very appreciative.
the promise has been made, but they have yet to give me the $4.9 million. Felipe.
Okay, so I'll take back a little bit what I said then. But hopefully that money will show up very soon.
Very soon, I'm hopeful as well.
Would you, is there any reasonable expectation that that number would be potentially incorporated into this year's?
So the conversations we've had with DCA at this point is that if we were to receive $45 million, there will be no extra money for the city. We would just have to make ends meet with the amount that we get, because the amount has absolutely, I mean, we're going from 16 plus 10 to $45 million. So that's a very large jump. So we do not expect to receive an additional 4 million, 5 million that they find and give to us from that point after.
Thank you. And I appreciate your hard work and
Thank you.
hopeful success for this, because we have so many needs across the board, from inspectors to roads to.
Correct.
You name it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Good. Thank you.
Madam President. Just a second, BA Cruz. Thank you.
Thank you.
Couple of things. If my memory serves me correctly, our bottom line budget is supposed to increase. There's cost of living adjustments and things like that. So that's always going to increase. We need more services and things like that. But the transitional aid is a program that's meant to help cities like ours to make up for the revenues we don't really bring in. That transitional aid and is supposed to reduce that request, that number is supposed to reduce not by 15%, and our budget is not supposed to reduce by 15%. First of all, that's an astronomical percentage difference in reduction in our budget. I believe it's 2% for transitional aid. It is 15 for transition, but our main bottom line budget is not supposed to reduce. So, but our capital city aid can increase. You can increase the ask for that. So with DCA acknowledging that we need $45 million, what is stopping the administration from asking for the difference in that in capital city funding versus transitional aid, since we're supposed to be weaning ourselves off by increasing our revenue so that we can get off of transitional aid?
So that's a good point, Councilwoman, Madam President. So we actually, every year, as I mentioned, we do the Doug and Punny show with Assembly, Senate, Fighting 15, Governor's Office, Treasury, and that is actually what we ask for every year. For some reason, unbeknownst to us, the Treasury, the Governor's Office do not want to do more than $10 million in capital city aid for us for some reason. It would be fantastic because that is actually the pitch that we do on a yearly basis, that they convert the transitional aid to capital city aid. And if you probably may remember a couple of years ago, maybe 2-3 years ago, capital city aid actually comes with an agreement that DCA is to actually oversee our finances, similar to the transitional aid. We signed the agreement saying, yes, DCA is monitoring us. And so the Treasury, the governor actually made those requirements for the capital city aid as well. So even if we did get capital city, we will still have to be under DCA supervision as if we had transitional aid. But for some reason, they do not want to increase that $10 million mark.
Yeah, I mean, since being sworn into this seat, my understanding of the memorandums of understanding and my position of that has changed. I'm not opposed to being under an MOU if we're getting money in those amounts from the state. They just want to make sure that it's being spent appropriately and in a professional manner. We obviously have had issues in the past with previous employees and mayors who misappropriated funds. Grants have not been properly logged. We lost grants in the millions of dollars because of procedural issues. So I'm not opposed to the MOU until we get our act together. So I just want to go on a record and say that. But back to the introduction and the adoption of the budget, in the past, during our conversations with DCA, it was to my understanding that we were requesting this money without itemizing what it would be appropriated to. Is that a hindrance? Like when we're introducing the budget, it's supposed to have what you're going to spend that money on, not that we have to ask for it and then we'll tell you what we're going to spend it on. We have to tell them what we're spending it on so that we justify why we need that much money. So has that process changed?
No, the process doesn't change. And DCA actually was given you all received the book last year, correct? The budget book. So DCA received that beforehand that shows every expenditure line by line. If you want to buy a pen, there's a line there for pens in the department. If you want to buy vehicles, there is a specific line item for vehicles. So that is exactly what we give DCA. I don't think that they would want it any other way because they want to make sure that yes, they have actually their eyes on every single expenditure that we do in the city.
So would it be helpful, with that being said, if that's the way that it's structured, for us to follow the proper procedures for it to be introduced to council for a public hearing so that the public can weigh in on this? Would it mean more and strengthen our application for transitional aid and our request for capital city funding if the public and city council passes the introduced budget? It's not an adopted one, but an introduction, and that would strengthen it with DCA to say, okay, 90,000 residents weighed in on this, and we do need this funding, and this is why we're requesting it. Is that the way that it would work?
Yeah, so Madam President, unfortunately, DCA will never allow for the administration, the mayor, to introduce the mayor's budget to council and you accepting the budget without them actually giving us the green light. The moment that we try to do that, DCA will come back to us and say, pull that off the docket. And so they will never allow for that to be the case.
Okay.
So, and as I mentioned to you, if I was to actually give you a budget that reflects last year's budget, it would actually be a misery for the city. So this is why we don't want you to get a budget that will change it drastically once we get the word from DCA as to how much money we will be receiving.
Thank you. You provided a lot of clarity for us. So essentially, we're waiting for you to hear back from DCA, and then it'll be introduced to us by the new introduction and adoption dates, March 29th and April.
Yes, the moment that we get marching orders from the Director of Local Government Services, that we can proceed with an introduction, or she'll say, introduce a budget. Well, guess what? I'm going to introduce the mayor will be introducing a budget that we currently have on hand that we gave to DCA.
Okay.
Unless we're told otherwise. Yes.
I just have one more question. You done, babe? I just have one more question. When you're asking for extra staff, right? Like for inspectors and things like that, do you provide like a return on investment sheet, a projected income justification for these positions to show DCA if we hired 5 inspectors, this is the amount of revenue that they would bring in by going out and citing people for whatever it is that they would go out and do? Like, do you show them that to justify the position, right? Not that they would pay for themselves, but they're justified because, one, we have the issues in the city, but 2, they will draw enough revenue potentially that it's not just like wasted, it's not wasted expenditures.
Yes, so Madam President, the way the process works is once we identify a need for the department, 2 extra inspectors, we do a waiver with that is signed by myself, the mayor, by the CFO, and then is provided to the monitor from DCA. We most of the times, if it's not very significant, we go with perhaps no memo or just the explanation on the waiver to then a memo with perhaps, as you mentioned, backup documentation as to why this will be critical for the city. We've been in conversations now with DCA for a pitch from the fire director, and we have done a couple of presentations to the monitor as well as voluminous documentation to say why it would be beneficial for the department to actually,
Do this.
for them to approve the request. And so for the majority of the times, if it's 1 or 2 individuals, there really isn't much talk, but when there is something that we feel is going to be significant, yes, we provide the paperwork, the data, whatever it is that we can. And of course, we have meetings with the monitor to make sure that he understands the documentation. Yes.
Okay.
But it's not always, because most of the times it's only like 1 or individual, 2 individuals. and it's not very significant of a hit when it comes to expenditures.
Mhm. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, because we know that we have certain positions that need to be filled, like we want to see a full cabinet. We want to see us fully operational with what we need.
Yes.
We want to see the staffing. We want to have it so that people can move around and do what it is that's needed. We
Yeah.
would definitely like to see that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Madam President, when we do the budget books, you will see in your books, once you get a copy of your book, you will see when it is a new position.
Mhm.
Don't forget, once it comes to you, it has already been vetted by DCA. The directors have come and pled their case, and we have already gotten approval to say, yes, you can proceed with these two new positions. At that point is when we make the argument as to why it may be necessary, and by the time it makes it to the monitor, he already knows that this budget has already been vetted, approved by DCA, and then he's good to go. As long as the positions are reflected on the budget, he doesn't do much push. Now, if we do go creative and we want to do, rather than two new positions, we want to do 5, then the monitor will say, no, you only budgeted for 2 new positions. And so that's where the push comes.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you so
All right.
much,
Thank you.
Beatrice.
Thank you.
And then the last one is, so for those two consent? Okay, so 24,091 and 092 are on consent. Thank you. And so then our last one is 24,097.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So if I'd like to ask the fire director a few questions. We have to give him something to do once in a while. Yeah.
Right, I was like, where's he going?
Ken Douglas, Fire Director. Good evening,
Okay.
Council.
Good evening, fire director.
Yes, ma'am.
So just wanted to ask regarding this, I'm sure it's absolutely needed, but can you fill us in on the exact heating situation currently at the headquarters and then also at the other firehouses around the city?
The repairs?
Yes, please.
Okay, so as you all aware, I believe it's this year or last year, $1.7 million was approved through transition aid by DCA. Part of the money for vehicles, but at least $1 million is being used to repairs, some much needed repairs to all 7 firehouses, including the roofs, the windows, 2 of the floors. So of course, we have a couple of firehouses that's dated, and those floors with the weight of the equipment that we have can't sustain the weight, and some other cosmetic things, of course, to fix these firehouses. I apologize.
So then with this resolution 97 about the heating systems, are the heating systems in the other firehouses, are they in good shape?
Well, Core Mechanical, that actually, they do all the heating systems for all the public buildings. Perry Street is just one of them. Yes.
Good. Okay. And then in engine 6 on North Clan, I know I've asked you about this before. Do we have any guesstimate of when the concrete floor might be able to get poured for that one?
Well, I know that the Director of Public Works, he has the quotes for those floors. So you should be seeing something introduced to the council shortly.
Okay. And then from that, I don't know if the director wants to answer, but my understanding, it would take a little bit more than 30 days for the concrete floor to be poured and then cure after the removal of the wooden floors and the replacement of the floor joist, et cetera?
I wouldn't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm not a contractor. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. About how long it take for the concrete floors to be poured. Concrete floors to be poured. It's like the timeline.
Yeah, I actually have been involved in this, and the city engineer has actually acquired all the plans and specs that are needed, because some of these things are, we have thousands and thousands of pounds that are rolling in and out. It's not a fixed weight that is falling on there, it's just a movement. So specific structural needs have to be addressed in order to make that very stable. So the RFP, from what I understand, about 2-3 weeks ago, the specifications were actually being produced. And they were in the process of putting the RFP together to advertise. So that should be coming on probably within the next week or so, 2 weeks. But yes, we're in the process and we're fortunate to have money from DCA, from the $39 million that, but the $4.9 million that they gave us to fix the firehouses.
So this one at Engine 6, that should be done by summertime, I would like to think.
Yes, I would say so, because it takes about 10 days well, the RFP is already done. They need to do the bid specs. Once the bids go out, minimum 10 days, we bring it back. I would probably say between 15 to 18 days for us to actually grade it and put it on the docket for adoption. So yes, you're probably looking at probably end of April, beginning of May for the bids to be presented to council for adoption. And then from there, of course, it's just getting the documentation, notice to proceed for the project to take place. And, then it's just actually doing the actual work.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you, Council President. Yes, please. Very much so.
Thank you.
On your call, Madam President.
That concludes that. So I guess we'll take the motion now to go into executive session.
I believe you already passed the motion for that purpose. If you want to go
Okay,
into
so then can we
executive.
go ahead into executive session?
Certainly. And for the public, since it's been some time, we do not anticipate a vote coming out of executive session. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have I have one more thing to say. Before we close, I just have. I can't help, and I don't mind saying this, I don't mind saying this openly.
The mic for me, want somebody here.
I don't mind saying this openly, but to the extent council has given approvals or resolutions of support to folks who that support may be in question, there's a procedure in terms of having that person come back on a motion for reconsideration of a past resolution to have a discussion with the person who may be doing things to flaunt things like looking in that mirror or that window, to have them come back and reconsider whether or not the support is still there.
And to enforce compliance. Yes.
Can I have a motion to come out of executive session?
So second.
Been moved in second. I'll call the roll. Councilwoman Edwards.
Yes.
Vice President Figueroa Kettenberg. Councilwoman Frisbee.
Yes.
Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Yes.
Councilman Harrison.
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams.
Yes.
Council President Feliciano.
Yes.
Motion carried.
May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So move.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Certainly. Councilwoman Edwards.
Yes.
Vice President Figueroa Kettenberg. Councilwoman Frisbee.
Yes.
Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Yes.
Councilman Harrison.
Yes.
Councilwoman Williams.
Yes.
And Council President Feliciano.
Yes.
Motion carried. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Chair is heavy. And it got me in my